partnership and collaboration between talent acquisition and talent management, and talking about how we measure things. For example, with this particular program, and with a very sort of central cohort of graduates that we hire every year, we've been able to demonstrate that thanks to the accurate hiring, but also like the development that we put in
Mm.
place for these people, both from a learning point of view, but also from a performance management point of view. We saved hours and hours of time to the team leads.
Welcome to the All in Recruitment podcast by Manatal, where we explore best practices, learnings, and trends with leaders in the recruitment space. If you like our content, please subscribe to our channels on YouTube and Spotify to stay tuned for our weekly episodes. I'm your host, Lydia, and this week we have Gabriel Galassi from WISE. Great to have you with us, Gabriel.
Thank you for having me, and nice to meet you, Lydia.
And so, Gabriel, tell us a little bit more about your background and your move into the people space. I mean, what's the real pull factor for you in this space?
So I started my career in the television industry, and I was on the business side of things. But when I got to manage a team and take leadership responsibilities, I just realized that talent and just growing talent, enhancing performance was where my passion was. And I don't know, I truly had a lot more fun like enhancing my team than making money for the company.
Mm.
So I thought I need to turn this into a job. So like many, I started from where I had a lot of credit, which was training people on the skills that I had acquired in my job. I had a lot of street credit, I like to call it.
Right.
But I also went back to university and started retraining in organizational psychology, and then as a coaching psychologist. This was like a very long journey that I did on the side. And in terms of how I started, it was a training role within BBC Studios
Mm.
to start a sales academy. And after that experience, I had my consultancy. When I finished my studies, I launched my consultancy, and I was independent for 5 years, working across so many different organizations in in the space of talent development and talent acquisition as well.
Mm.
And I was a coach as well, and a lecturer. I lectured at Kingston University and Birkbeck University in the UK on training and development, which is a very, very serious discipline within the undergraduate and postgraduate courses of organizational psychology. So it's like theories of learning, adult education, and things like that. And that
And
led me to where I am today at White.
so that academic, or rather that teaching module that you do as a practice, how is that lent? How have you transferred that knowledge maybe in or applied that onto your role at WISE?
I think there's a huge challenge. There's been a huge challenge between academia and the world of
Mm.
practitioners always. Research in organizational psychology, especially in the learning and development field, is amazing. We have really robust studies around learning transfer, for example, like all of those predictors of successful learning, but we also have a lot of input on assessing impact of learning, not to mention all the theories of instruction. So how you put together a learning experience in order to be successful, in order for people to really learn what you want them to learn. So
Mhm.
translating the academic experience into the job is, I think, incredibly easy. Like you just feel like you've got almost like an additional power, like with all that wealth of knowledge, and obviously you know how to navigate it as well, because research can be and academia can be incredibly difficult to navigate unless
Mm.
you're trained to recognize what is solid and what is not. The other way around, perhaps as a lecturer, I've always been quite pragmatic. I think I found myself being
Mm.
called an academic at work. Like sometimes people call me Professor Gab at work. And in the academic world as a lecturer, I was known as a practitioner, really.
Mm.
So I've been sort of navigating the two worlds, uh, sometimes with a bit of frustration because you wish people knew more on both sides. You know, the frustration sometimes of having students being overly academic and telling them, hey, you're not going to last one day in an organization if you approach
Indeed.
it this
Yeah.
way. But then also on the other side, practitioners that you wish, knew how to understand research a bit better.
Yeah, it's always about paving a new pathway, whether it's in academia, bringing new ideas into both sides. I suppose that is where the real push happens.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, in
Yes,
terms of
absolutely.
your role at Wise, in this global role, you have a global head of people and organizational development. So, what areas have you prioritized really within Wise?
Yeah, WISE, solves a real life problem, right? That each of us experiences when we go abroad, and for this reason, we just look for people that think customer first or
Mm,
customer obsessed, and we do the same for businesses across the world. At the end of the day, just like making money travel faster, conveniently, ultimately free, and transparently.
mm,
So when you think about working within an organization like this, which is so mission driven and so customer focused, the way that you translate this into your people strategy is that you start with people, like first and foremost. So we're absolutely not the kind of like HR operating from the ivory tower and pushing down frameworks. I think our business stakeholders hold us very accountable for being very relevant and
mhm,
demonstrating our impact all the time. So um, their experience of being a talent within Wise is where we start from all the time. We believe in designing all of our interventions with our customers, not only in mind, but with our customers present in the room.
mm.
We do planning together even, and
So when you say your customers in the room, I mean, how does that work? I mean, what is the process behind that? Or is that an ongoing thing? Or do you have that as a set or sort of a one-off focus group, for instance? Is that how it
yeah,
works?
yeah. Design thinking, listening sessions, co-creating workshops.
Hmm.
I would say that most of what my team does, from like leadership development to company onboarding to even mandatory training, mandatory and compliance training, all starts from a room where we can sit with our business stakeholders and understand what is it that they're actually needing, and what kind of input can they give to our work so that what we do is first and foremost relevant to them. I think that's at the end of the day what evidence-based HR is, which everybody talks about. In my mind, 50% of the evidence that you need to use is your business stakeholder
Hmm.
feedback. There's data, of course, because sometimes you can see data patterns and you can see insights in a way that business stakeholders cannot, right? So you need to use data as well. And then obviously there's research, and there are industry trends or sort of market standards or market best practices, and all of these things combined give you an evidence-based practice. But that's something that's for me at like 50% of it comes from business stakeholders.
And in terms of, I mean, these are great initiatives put in place, especially to understand real time and very current expectations and goals within the business itself, coming from the stakeholders. So, what are your measures of success in these particular initiatives, for example, Gabriel?
Yeah, beyond what I guess people like or don't like, which is like the standard way in which we used to measure HR interventions. I think the essence of our relevance is the impact that we can have on the
Mm,
business. So I'm proud of a lot of initiatives that we measure. I was thinking something that comes to mind, for example, is the work that we do both in talent acquisition and talent management together is a joint
Mm.
it's a joint effort that we do at Wise is in the program that we call Wise Start. The Wise Start is a program, I guess, like an umbrella term under which we put all of the programs where we find, hire, and then develop early career newbies and graduates, apprentices, interns, but also people that want to change career and
Mm.
with internal academies, for example. And so that's one of the best examples of like true, I guess, partnership and collaboration between talent acquisition and talent management. And talking about how we measure things, for example, with this particular program and with a very sort of central cohort of graduates that we hire every year, we've been able to demonstrate that thanks to the accurate hiring, but also like the development that we put in
Mm.
place for these people, both from a learning point of view, but also from a performance management point of view. We saved hours and hours of time to the team leads um, because we did a lot of the guidance and a lot of the mentoring ourselves
Mm.
with the newbies. But we also significantly contributed to the speed to autonomy, right?
Mm.
The speed to being capable of executing certain tasks, which thanks to our intervention, so thanks to the way that we hired, but also the way that we accompanied these people in the first 6 months, was
Mm.
a lot faster than if we had just introduced them to the team and said, "Here's your graduates, and
Mm.
and good luck," in a sense. So speeding up their journey to autonomy is an excellent measure, and this is something that, for example, we propose to do for the way that we do company onboarding as well. Like
Mm.
company onboarding from a talent agenda point of view is so important, and usually everybody loves it, because it's your first week of work, and you're getting pampered, you're getting a lot of attention, maybe you get some swag, you get a free lunch, you do
Mm.
some networking, you don't know anyone, so people are usually excited by it. But then what is the impact of what we're doing, and how are we adding or I guess facilitating the introduction of these people into the organization? How successfully do we help them navigate the culture in the first few
Yeah.
months? Leadership development is the same. Like people love going on leadership development programs because they're usually a milestone in the career of an individual. But then what we like to measure is um, if we take a group of people that hasn't attended our training for whatever reason, and then we take the same amount of people that have gone through the training, can we demonstrate 6 months down the line that those people get much better feedback in terms of the quality of their
Mm.
leadership in our engagement survey? And we do measure these things, and we're very proud of the results that we get. And this is ultimately also how you want to communicate to the business,
Mm.
because it immediately gives you that kind of relevance and authority and gravitas to be in the room with them, because you're not executing sort of admin work, you're actively contributing to the success of the organization.
Now, Gabe, in terms of, I mean, these are initiatives that work really well in terms of, just making sure that people are on their own, speed to autonomy, as you say. But are there any challenges to executing this in a global scale?
I think there are, of course, but it's about scalability of what you do, and it's about always diversifying your talent agenda between some foundational work and some customized work. I have to say that, of course, I have to answer that are challenges, but there's also some design that goes into this. So I
Mm.
think it depends. Like for example, if you have a well-distributed leadership community, and if you work well with your leaders, then you've solved 50% of the issue,
Mm.
50% of the challenge. It also depends on how accurately distributed your teams are. So personally, one of the challenges that I have in my team, we're a big team. but we don't have the same coverage necessarily everywhere. So we need to make up for, for example, the lack of facilitators sometimes in
Mm.
certain locations over others. Um, but I think ultimately it's about how you design the team, and it's about how you design your regional presence. And if you do that with talent practices in mind, then you're always going to make sure that there is always someone that is capable of carrying out all the initiatives. But I
Mm.
would lie if I said that we've got it 100% right on, for example, why start, right? Because a program like that heavily depends also on a regional configurations, right? So, for
Mm.
example, in the UK, you've got the apprenticeship scheme, and in other geography, you don't necessarily have the same setup, right?
Right.
And in certain countries, there's a culture for sort of early careers, graduate jobs, and in others, there is not.
Mm.
Same applies to interns. So you need to consider those nuances as well.
Now, going back to the collaboration that you talked about between talent management and talent acquisition, what are some challenges or maybe some barriers that recruiters or talent teams might face when it comes to assessing candidates to fit, a broader people strategy, for instance?
Mhm. I think like the biggest challenges for talent acquisition, at the moment are around finding the right skills in the market. So
Mm.
and literally having available talent pools, and in those talent pools being able to find the skills that you're looking for,
Right.
and then uh, process efficiency. So like how quickly you can turn around the process. And then another big challenge is technology. It's an opportunity as well, right? But I think we're navigating a moment where it's confusing, and we're probably transitioning into a completely different dimension, but we still don't know precisely what that looks like. And for me, the points of contact with the kind of job that I focus on, so more on the
Mm.
talent journey once we've acquired the talent. The main point of contact is around skills. So it's
Mm.
around working on creating a common language when it comes to skills. Um, this has been talked about forever. So this is another amazing example of what I was telling you earlier. So the academia being completely isolated from the practitioner world. But there's so much talking right now about skill-based organizations and
Mm.
skill-based acquisition and development, etc. But organizational psychologists have been talking about this for decades. Only they call them competencies, right?
Mm.
And now everybody calls them skills, and all of a sudden it's this big revolution. But it's not really. And I think if uh, talent as a dimension can align on what the right skills are for the jobs that you have in the organization, but especially for their jobs that you're going to have down the line, like in 2 years' time. Then
Mm.
the collaboration between the two teams is exquisite. Because
Mm.
it can really maximize also on potential. Once you've defined what potential is for your organization. But I wish, and I know that my colleague in talent acquisition feels the same. I wish that we could spend more and more time, aligning on skills and sort of unifying the way that we look at it, because there is so much consistency in this journey. If only we find the right pegs, to start doing the work together.
Yeah, and to your point on, identifying potential, maybe 2 or 3 years down the line, and also identifying what potential looks like in terms of identifying a potential high performer. I mean, are there any components that go together in order to find out, okay, this might be the person that we would possibly be looking at? Let's say we're dealing with many uncertainties. How do you identify a high performer in that sense?
I think you must first decide what a high performer is. And I think that the truth is that a lot of talent teams and leaders accept this word at face value,
Mm,
but just like out of construct, such as potential, for example, there's no such thing as one type of high performer. So
mm,
I don't know. I've seen countless threads on LinkedIn of consultants shouting, "Oh, this is what a high performer is. This is what a high performer does." And I don't know. I think as a psychologist, I would warn people against anyone that claims to hold the truth, about the definition of an individual. For me, it's a contradiction. Even when that is just like a professional persona. So if you ask me what should you do, I think you go back to the drawing board and you observe talent within your organization.
mm,
If you have intellectual honesty, you'll already know that that's a tentative area, right? Because there is so much to do in order to identify high performance and talent within the organization. You have to agree on so many things before you can say for sure, these are high performers. You have to have a lot of alignment among functions, both at organizational level, but also at technical level within the different departments. But let's say if your talent agenda is clear, you can
mm,
then start from observing, I guess, those who had the most significant impact on the business, those who have been able to navigate challenges and consistently, improve. And I guess you can observe your low performance too, or if you cannot observe them, then maybe you can read their performance reviews and you can analyze what has gone wrong in their journey within the organization, and then with all of that knowledge, you
mm,
can identify common themes and narratives, and with those observations, you can start building what a high performing persona looks like, isolating competencies, so skills, but by that, we really mean knowledge, behaviors and attitudes and actual skills, actual technical skills that define successful performance in your organization. And then with that,
mm,
you open another big chapter, which is, so how do I identify those narratives in a candidate?
mm,
And too often, like we rely on obviously interviews, and interviews for sure have validity and a degree of, I guess, being able of predicting performance of individuals, but there is so much more that could be done, like even within interviews, situational judgment questions seem to be more successful than other types of questions. And I still see a lot of organizations are heavily insisting on interviewing based on their organizational values,
mm,
which probably is not a very future-proof, I guess, strategy. And there are many ways to assess, and it's one of those things, like there's so much research around all of these different assessment methods, but the truth is, if you don't know what good looks like, and if
mm.
you cannot elaborate, if you cannot describe what a high performer is in your organization, then we can have like the most advanced assessment tools, and you're
Mm.
you're still gonna you're still gonna fail, right?
So, okay, in terms of, all these components, I totally get I can see how so many factors can come into play when you need to identify what a high performer actually is and what potential truly means internally before you can look outside. But there's also, a question of, does tenure play a part in this judgment? How long someone has worked in a role, or how many times they've shifted. There's so many discussions about this out there, and plenty of debates on whether or not a tenure, for instance, less than a year or 2 years of service is important. What is your opinion on this?
Well, I don't know, it's a complicated answer. As someone who has like changed career quite dramatically at some point in my life, and then as someone that has gone from being a freelance consultant to being internal in an organization again, I loved having chances like this, and I am proof that non-standard careers can be
Mm,
successful, and there are so many people, out there that can demonstrate this. I think it's a very subjective decision, because at the end
mm,
of the day, there are people that are obviously capable of performing in a role, even if they don't have uh, enough years of experience or
mm,
enough tenure in a role. And equally, there are people that have many years of tenure and will still not be able to perform at the next level for whatever reason. Um, what is the game changer here? I think it's your ability to facilitate the process for this individual.
mm,
If you hire somebody who has been in a role for a couple of years, and you think that it would take 5 years for someone to perform at the next level, but you still want to give this person a chance, you know that you're going to have to accompany this person in the first
mm,
like 6 months of their role. So can you afford that? Do you have the time, the resources in order to do that? But that's why my discipline is so fascinating.
mm,
We're not operating with machines, we're operating with human beings. And human beings, as much as there is a whole movement that is trying to say, I don't know, you are this type, type psychology is so popular. Yeah, so you're type whatever letter, or type whatever another letter, you're green, you're blue, you're this kind of person. It's not true. Individuals are complicated, and I think skills attached to an individual are also complicated. I know for sure that I have developed certain skills a lot faster than other
mm,
people, and I know for sure that there are also other skills that I haven't developed as fast as it was expected of me,
mm,
because I have a very specific type of brain. I have a very specific kind of thinking approach, and in different contexts I respond in different ways. It's too complex to say down with that, or yeah, I fully support that. There are considerations to make
mm.
in every kind of circumstance.
And finally, Gabe, what advice would you give someone who is starting out in this very complicated, very interesting people space today?
To start, where you can add something to the conversation.
Mm,
So for career changes, to always think, okay, what have I accumulated sort of in my experience so far that can be of use to a people role. I think this is my personal opinion. I appreciate the fact that I haven't started in HR.
mm,
I think that gave me so much leverage because it really, for a few years, I worked as a customer of HR, and so I could see HR as a service user, and that gives you an invaluable perspective when you then start being at the service of a business. And I think jobs require life experience before you can be truly effective. And then the other thing that I always like to say, and I know this sometimes angers some people, but I believe in that so much, that you need to have a degree of like unconditional desire to have a positive impact on people's lives, and an active part like in the success of the business. You need to be dedicated to that. I don't think that this is a job, save for perhaps some roles here and there. I don't think this is a job where you can last long unless you believe that people can change, and unless you believe that you can have an impact based on how you decide to do things. So I think that needs to be a core value. On the more practical side, more than psychology at this point, like if students are listening or prospective students
mm,
are listening, more than psychology, I would study neuroscience for sure,
mm,
and a thorough understanding of data, and data analysis, as well as data storytelling, like the whole package. It seems to me like it is more and more fundamental because that is where we have truly found a way to demonstrate impact and relevance to the business. Not to mention that the amount of technology that is being developed at the service of what we do is insane. I get
Mhm.
called in so many times by startups asking me to give them, I don't know, comments and opinions about what they're developing. I love doing that. And there's so much out there, right? Like people are coming up thanks to AI as well. The next phase of AI is going to be where we finally understand how it can help us, right? Because
Mm.
it's going to be applied. And there's so much coming down the line that I think like an eye on technology is important.
Yeah, as you said, data storytelling accompanies the analysis and accompanies the technology. So that's really so many different phases that a person in the people
Mm.
space needs to look into in order to really embrace that role today, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's an organic growth, and I don't think you can, you can
Mm.
set all of these objectives at once. You need to
Mm.
start from something, and that's why I said start from where you can add something to the conversation. Start from your life experience. For me, training was a natural way to do it. I love delivering training. I love facilitating, coaching as well. I don't think I became like a robust coach until I had enough life experience.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, many things. So take them one step at a time.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Gabriel, for your insights and especially your time today. And for those listening in, as you said, maybe some prospective students or someone who's looking for a career change or wanting to know exactly how they can grow, where can they contact you to take the conversation further, maybe?
Yeah, sure. So I do have a website where I have
Mhm.
kept like a bit about my philosophy and my approach to talent and all the clients that I had as a consultant. So that's thecoachpsych.com. But then I am on LinkedIn with my name and surname. So add me if you want to start a conversation. That's as far as it goes for my social presence because
Mhm.
I'm not really anywhere else. But yeah, I guess LinkedIn or the website are a great way to get in touch, and I'm always happy to sort of make new contacts and network.
Thank you again, Gabriel. And we have been in conversation with Gabriel Galassi from WISE. Thank you for joining us. And remember to subscribe to
Thank you.
stay tuned for more weekly episodes from All in Recruitment.